We're emotional, we're spontaneous, we seek connection, but we also test boundaries. We often confuse your stability as a sign of weakness. We often confuse your patience as a lack of other options. And we sometimes just assume you'll be there forever until you're not. You see, when a woman starts to feel like you've stopped revolving around her, when your energy has retreated, when your presence is gone, when you're no longer available in the same manner you previously were, it flips a switch in her. And that's when the pining begins. But by then, it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It has to do with how she feels when you're not there. This isn't a bashing women, blaming women video. It's sharing the real truth from a woman's mouth. So you cease wondering what happened and can finally understand how this dynamic really plays out, because there are cues. There are those tiny psychological moments when a woman starts to miss the very man she undersold. And if you're a guy who's been taken for granted before, or if you're holding back now, and wanting to get inside her head about what she might be experiencing in the silence, this is for you. I'm going to walk you through it step by step, not from a book, but from the way we really process. The way we really feel when we know we might have lost a man who wasn't so replaceable after all. 1. It hits when you stop reaching out. I'd like to know when we miss you. Not when we're arguing. Not even when we give you the silent treatment or feign indifference. It's when your name becomes absent from our phone. You no longer check in. You no longer text. You no longer send those tiny updates we used to fake annoyance with. And that is when the silence creeps in. Not outside, but within us. Because, see, most women are used to being pursued. We're used to a man demonstrating himself, appearing, and being consistent, even when we're hot and cold. And when a man persistently appears like that, we get powerful. We feel like we have him under our control. And from there, it's easy to start taking him for granted without even knowing it. But when he breaks up with us, that's when it hits. At first, we feel lost. Why haven't I heard from him today? Then it becomes checking your phone more often, recharging your feed, and looking at your stories just to know what you're doing, even though we never comment or like. We can tell that change in your energy. And our ego doesn't know how to deal. And don't worry, it's taking a long time. A day, 2, or perhaps a week of space is all that is needed to get a woman who once declared she needed space suddenly concerned about what you're doing without her. We're wondering, did he find someone? Is he mad? Did I mess it up? Is he done? What you have to understand is if a woman pulls away or acts like she doesn't care, really, it's a test, just to see how much you're going to fight for her. But if you do walk away, it catches her off guard because deep inside, she wanted you to keep holding on.
And when you don't, she starts to see how much she took you for granted. Your presence, your voice, your attention, and your reliability. The things she used to take for granted are the things she starts to crave. You stop reaching out, and that's the moment she starts realizing what she's losing. And the worst part for her is that she can just pick up where she left off because now you've changed. You're no longer chasing. You're no longer giving your energy so freely. And suddenly, she's the one who has to wander. That shift, that's when the missing starts. 2. We miss the things you used to do that we did not appreciate. You understand? What's ridiculous? We don't miss you for the over-the-top stuff. We miss you for the little stuff, the things we didn't even realize were special until you were gone doing them. It is not the expensive dinners or the high-end surprises. It is that you used to send us a good morning text message every day, the way you'd notice when we were drained, even when we attempted to be fine. How you'd come not with bouquets of flowers, but with our favorite snack. Or how you'd remember something we whispered in passing that others didn't hear. We remember how you made us feel safe, heard, chosen. But here's the rub. Back then, we didn't always appreciate it. We grew too familiar with it, comfortable, and maybe even a little entitled. We took it for granted and assumed it was just who you were. The good guy, the always caring, always giving, always present guy. And when we were self-absorbed in our own moods, aggravations, or egocentric moments, we likely made you feel like none of that was of consequence, that your work went unseen. But after you're gone, those very same things ring out. We start to miss the constant, reassuring presence. The way you stood behind us without seeking credit. The way you forgave us when we were not at our best. And we see it, not because you've begun not to, but because no one else does it the same way you do.
We begin comparing every new man to you. And here is the truth that most women won't admit to you. When we're with men who don't show us that same emotional depth, who don't notice, who don't look at us like you did, that's when the regret starts. Because now we know. We know that we lost not only the person who liked us. We lost a person who cared. We lost a person who gave more than he took. Someone who was emotionally intelligent, aware, and present. And that kind of man, he is rare. It hits us when we're in bed swiping on our phones, reading something that makes us think of you. It hits when someone else feels annoyed with us instead of patient. It hits when we try to open up to someone else and realize that it is just not the same. You taught us a kind of love we never knew existed until it was gone. And before we can realize what we've lost, you're no longer there. So yes, we miss you. But more than anything, we miss how we felt with you around. And if you have ever wondered if or how she remembers all those small things that she used to do, she remembers more than you know. 3. We start playing it cool, but inside, we're spiraling when we realize that we've taken a good guy for granted. We don't necessarily own up to it right away. More often than not, in fact, we try to play it cool. We'll act like we don't care, post some living my best life stories, and maybe even start flirting with someone else. Not because we're over you, but because we need to seem to be. It's a coping mechanism. We don't want you to realize that we're pondering our thoughts about you, that we're reliving dialogue, questioning whether we crossed the line, whether we confused your affection for vulnerability, and worst of all, that perhaps we lost you forever. Inside, we're spinning, quietly, secretly, but we will not display it. That's the way women deal with regret. We keep it compartmentalized. We attempt to entomb it beneath distractions, attention, and validation. But none of it really works. Because the truth is, when a woman has an emotional investment in a man and loses him, it doesn't just vanish. It follows. It haunts. We will watch you moving on with your life, glowing up, maybe even doing things we said we wanted to do. But now you're doing them without us. And that hurts. Because now we realize it wasn't that you weren't enough. It was that we didn't value your worth on time. But even then, we won't rush back. Not right away. We'll wait. We'll see if you call. We'll hope you still care, still check, and still wonder. And when you don't, the anxiety starts. We start to wonder about things we never wondered about before. Was I too cold? Did I expect too much? Did I make him feel less valued? Does he hate me now? And it gets worse when you go silent, because then we don't know where we are. And women hate not knowing, especially when it's from a man who we believed would always be there. See, we believe we've got time, that you'll wait for us, that we can push your boundaries and you'll stick around. But when you don't, when you actually stop showing up, stop calling, and stop giving a damn, that's when we start to lose it inside. We can pretend we don't care, but trust me, the silence is more deafening than anything you'd ever say.
It forces us to sit with all we avoided, with all the ways we treated you poorly, and with all that you did that we pushed away. And the longer you stay quiet, the more we know he won't come back this time. That's when missing you turns into regret, and regret turns into a wake-up call. Not all women reach there, but the ones who loved you for real, even if they didn't act like it when they had you, feel it deeply when they lose you. 4. The ego fights the emotion, and emotion always triumphs in the end. Let me get real with you. When we start missing a man we once took for granted, we do not miss in silence. There is an outright inner conflict waging war within us. One part of us is screaming, "You blew it. You pushed away a good man." And the other part is muttering, "No, hold up. Do not let him see you cry. He should have fought tougher. That battle between ego and emotion, man, it's brutal. The ego wants to protect us. It tells us not to take responsibility, not to say sorry, and not to extend ourselves first. Because if we do, then we're vulnerable, and then we're losing control. And a lot of women, especially those who are used to being dominant or pursued, will maintain that power, even if it's costing them the relationship they truly want. But feeling doesn't stay underground forever. Truth is, we do feel it. Missing you comes in waves. Sometimes at night when everything is quiet. Sometimes when we see something that reminds us of you. Sometimes when we're having a laugh with someone else and suddenly feel it's not the same, that they don't make us feel the way you did. That's when the emotional part of us starts to surface. We start to admit things to ourselves that we were too self-absorbed to admit out loud. Like, I thought he would just know what I was thinking. I wanted him to come after me without realizing that he was already tired of trying to prove himself. I acted like I didn't need him, but really I did. And when the feelings start to accumulate, the ego begins to break down. But this is where it gets messy. We don't always show that emotional alteration right away. You won't necessarily see it on the outside. You might believe we've moved on. But inside, we're battling with what we feel and what we're afraid to admit. Sometimes we'll test the waters, like watching your stories, liking an old post, sending a, "Hey, hope you're good" message that doesn't say much, but really means, "I'm still thinking about you." It's not always that we require full reconciliation right away. A lot of the time, we just need to know we can reach out to you again, that the door isn't shut, and that we didn't lose connection with you completely. But if we sense that you've truly checked out, that you're gone emotionally, that your energy has moved on for good, that's when emotion entirely breaks through the ego. And what once was just missing, you turns into that pit in the stomach feeling. Women do not speak aloud with their voice. Regret without return. And believe me, no woman wants to sit in that. It's painful, it's humbling, and has us wishing we could rewind everything we said and did when we thought we had all of forever. 5. When we see you glow without us, it hits different. You want to know when we actually start missing you. It's not right after the breakup. It's not even when the silence kicks in. No, it's when we see that you didn't stop living your life. That's when we're sure you're not just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, getting all sorry for yourself, waiting for us to come back. That's when it strikes. I remember this one guy. We'd broken up and gotten back together a few times. And honestly, I think I thought I had the control. He was nice, patient, and emotionally stable. But I played that like it was safe, not sexy. I thought he'd always be there. And then one day, I looked at his Instagram, and it was a different guy. He looked lighter, happier. He was out at events, traveling, going to the gym, smiling in a way he hadn't when we were together. There was no bitterness, no passive-aggressive captions, just peace. And I hated it. Not because I wanted him unhappy, but because I suddenly realized I didn't have that control over him anymore. I'd let a good man go, and now he was flourishing without me. I'm not going to lie, I panicked. I had to talk to him. I even typed out a message multiple times and deleted it. I just kept thinking, was I really that forgettable? Had I meant anything at all? Here's the thing. When a man pulls away, we might roll our eyes. But when a man levels up, we pay attention. Women always pay attention when a man stops chasing and starts shining. It creates a psychological flip in us that's hard to deny. Now, we're not the ones evaluating you. We feel like we're being evaluated. And the worst part, when it's clear you're not trying to prove anything to us, that's when it cuts the deepest. Because women know when a man is showing off to get our attention, and when he is genuinely in his zone, moving on, rebuilding, When we assumed you were always there, we were wishing you were in the same emotional place. But when we see that you are not, when your energy changes, when you are calm and unaffected, when your silence is heavy, it forces us to look at something we were trying not to. We were part of the problem. And once that thinking sets in, it does not leave without a fight. We start to consider what you brought to the equation. Your stability, your gentleness, your strength, all of the things we were not valuing in the moment. And now we see another version of you, the healed, growing version that we no longer get to have. It hurts. That's when the missing begins. But not the nice kind. It's the sick to your stomach kind. The kind that keeps you up at night and makes you wonder how you allowed someone like you to slip away. 6. When you don't say anything, it makes us feel everything. Let me share with you something that you do not typically hear from women. Silence from a man who used to care. It is not just no contact. It is psychological warfare at its best. Because here's what really happens behind the scenes. When we take a man for granted, it's usually because we assume he'll always be around. If you're quiet, forgiving, or just emotionally available, a lot of women perceive that as safe, which unfortunately can be mistaken for expendable. But when the same man goes quiet, when you don't call in, don't respond, don't make an effort, it doesn't just leave a void, it leaves tension, it leaves space to think, and that's dangerous for us. Because the quiet becomes a reflection we can't look away from. With your voice absent from our lives, we're forced to hear ourselves. And that's when real questions start to creep in. Did I mess this up? Why hasn't he called me? Was he even that into me? Wait, is he finished with me? And trust me, the thoughts escalate quickly. Because once we think you're not emotionally invested anymore, it doesn't feel like peace to us. It feels like rejection. Even if we're the ones who pushed you away, even if we broke up first, your silence starts to feel like punishment, even though you're not doing anything but minding your own business. And that's when emotions finally overtake us, because silence leaves space for memory, and memory is powerful. We remember the little things, the way you used to text, "Good morning" before work, the way you made us laugh when no one else could, and the way you looked at us like we were the only person in the room. Back then, perhaps we dismissed it. Perhaps we felt it was too much, too formulaic, too comfortable. But in silence, they become louder. They ring in ways we can't silence. And the thing is, silence creates contrast. If you were always present, and all of a sudden you're not, it's like having a limb removed. You don't know how much you were relying on someone until they're gone. That's what your silence does. Now, do all women admit this? No. You'll never hear most of us say, "His silence is killing me." Instead, we'll distract ourselves. We'll post a story, hoping you'll view it. We'll go out, laugh too loudly, and post selfies that scream, "I'm fine." But the thing is, all of that is reaction to silence. Because silence is heavy. It makes us feel, it makes us face, and it makes us regret. And the more consistent you are with it, the more we start to miss you in ways we can't conceal. 7. When we see you've stopped needing us, it cuts deeper than you think. This hurts, because women don't usually talk about this out loud. But I'll be honest with you. If we know you don't need us anymore, if your focus no longer centers on us, that's when we miss you. And it's fear. Consider. Most women are operating on the assumption that regardless of what happens, the man who really loved us will always love us. That regardless of how much we push you, you'll always come back. But when you leave, when did you really shift your priorities? That's when our ego collapses. I remember being with a friend who went through this. She kept repeating over and over, "I know he loved me. He always loved me. Why isn't he calling me?" And I had to be harsh with her. because he no longer needs you. He can do without you. She did not want to hear it, but she knew it was true. And that truth plagued her at night. Because let's face it, when someone doesn't need you, it makes you question your own worth. It makes you realize that maybe you weren't as needed as you thought. And that's how women feel when we take a man for granted and discover he doesn't twirl around us anymore. It's a quiet devastation. It makes us miss not just you, but the part of us who felt needed, wanted, and desired. 8. When we see you with someone else. The regret sharpens its stings in a way that is hard to put into words. Because even if we do let you go, even if we've moved on, the moment we catch you with someone else, it hits like a chest blow. Not necessarily because we still desire you. Sometimes it isn't even about love anymore. It's about realization. Realization that while we were kept occupied with playing games, quizzing you, or underestimating you, someone else noticed it and grabbed it. And regret turns bitter at this point, because to miss you when you're around is one thing. There's always a little hope that, perhaps. But to miss you when you're clearly smitten with someone else, that's final. That's the slam of a door. And believe me, women don't like that. We'll examine her, compare ourselves, speculate on what she has that we didn't appreciate. And in the depths of our hearts, the truth will sear us. Our chance was there, and we blew it. I've been where he was, seeing a man I had dismissed step out of nowhere, smiling, hand in hand, happier than I ever made him happy. And I could not even get mad at him. I was mad at myself, because I had him in my life, and I let pride, my doubts, or my ego kill it. That type of regret doesn't fade fast. It stays with you, it gnaws at you, and it causes you to miss the smallest things, not only the man himself, but also the manner in which he left you feeling safe, valued, and understood. 9. When the dust settles, the regret becomes clearer. This is the hardest to admit, because when the anger fades, when the distractions are over, when life becomes less frantic, that's when we finally face what we've lost. We make up stories first. We tell ourselves that we're better. We convince ourselves that you are the problem. We distract ourselves with friends, with work, maybe even with someone else. But time has a way of eroding those layers. And when it does, the truth is like a knife. We didn't lose a man. We lost reliability. We lost familiarity. We lost the one person who was around when everyone else wasn't. And that's when we miss you differently from all the surface stuff. That's when it's not ego, not jealousy, not control. That's when it's lost. Plain, unadulterated loss. Because at the end of the day, women don't miss you when you're texting too much or chasing too hard. We miss you when you're gone, when you're still, when you're serene. We miss you when we realize the love we thought would always be there for us wasn't. And that realization shifts everything. For here's what most women won't dare to say out loud. We don't miss you when you're right in front of us. We miss you when you're gone. We don't appreciate the texts when they're coming in abundance, but we ache for them when they stop. We don't recognize the value of your consistency when it appears guaranteed, but we feel the void when it's withdrawn. That's why so many women regret it later. Not because you became someone new, but because we finally noticed who you were all along. 10. The more peace you carry, the more we crave it. Back, one of the most underrated things a man can do is simply live in peace. Not bitter, not chasing, not proving anything, just existing calmly, with self-respect intact. Do you know how powerful that is? Because when a woman remembers you, she doesn't always remember your face. She remembers the energy you had. And if that energy is grounded, calm, and stable, it stays with her. That's what keeps us awake at night. We know we traded peace for drama. We let go of a man who made us feel safe. For what? For drama. For pride. For temporary validation. That kind of mistake doesn't only cause pain, it haunts. And that's the reason why so many women end up circling back, reaching out months or even years later, not because they are bored, but because they miss the piece they didn't know they needed until it was gone. 11. We don't just miss you. We miss the version of ourselves with you. This is hard to confess, because sometimes missing a man isn't just about him, it's about us. With the right man, we're softer, kinder, and more peaceful. We laugh more. We feel more secure. We don't have the same edge or defensiveness. And when that man isn't present, we notice the difference in ourselves. We're more likely to get angry, more likely to doubt. We don't feel as safe, even in our own skin. And that's when regret really sets in. Because it's not so much that we miss you, it's that we miss who we were when we were with you. That's something that most women will never say to a man's face. But trust me, it's true. 12. At some point, we realize respect matters more than anything. Here's the ultimate truth. A woman might miss your sense of humor, your touch, and your attention. But what really leaves a lasting impression is the way you treated her with respect, or the way she failed to respect you. If you carried yourself with pride, if you never begged, if you never allowed yourself to get trampled, that works. Because even if she thought she wanted something else, every woman on some level honors the man who honors himself. That's why silence works. That's why pulling back works. Not because it's a trick or a game, but because it requires respect. And respect makes missing someone unavoidable. So what does all this mean? It means that if a woman released you, questioned you, or neglected you, she will miss you, eventually. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually the quiet will become louder than her pride. And when it does, she'll recall everything. The way you looked after her, the way you made her feel, the way you loved yourself enough to walk away. That's when regret becomes permanent. Because here's the truth. Women don't miss the men who begged, who pleaded, who lost themselves chasing. We miss the men who stood tall, who walked away, and who carried themselves with quiet strength. And if you've ever been that man, trust me, you will be missed more deeply than she'll ever admit.